welcome to Johnny Chiu's talk this morning. I'm just going to say a few brief words. A success story, but not without challenges. Johnny was born in Taiwan but grew up in New Zealand. His passion for architecture took him around the world, to Sydney, to Stockholm, to Columbia in New York, where he studied advanced architectural design. Returning to Taiwan, maybe he had overlearned how he felt like a fish out of water. But design ambitions acquired around the world did not match local practice. Potential clients wanted everything tomorrow and didn't understand his way of working. Nevertheless, he soldiered on. He formed his own office in Taipei in 2010, but simultaneously embarked on one of those remote doctorates at RMIT in Australia. His research question was how to overcome the problems of working in Taipei. He had on graduating, let's say, he had a new toolbox for working with his first clients that he discovered in the course of his doctorate. In 2019, he won the Inside World Interior of the Year with his Living Lab, which I personally remember and wanted to win, a charming project laced with details that incite curiosity. And I, too, am very curious to see what's happened since 2019. So please welcome Johnny Chiu.
Thank you, Nigel. Thanks. Carlo Scarpa once said, "Our duty is to give buildings a new lease of life so that they may be able to live today and tomorrow." I'd like to emphasize the opportunity and the relevance of our design approach. This project is not about luxury and redefined details. It focuses on a more realistic socioeconomic situation. It's about believing in the ripple effect, where we embrace the idea of rehab, reuse, and rehouse, while embracing the old to make it new again. This house is about finding a new way of living for the three kids in a dense urban metropolis. Is there a new possibility? Is there a new alternative solution for us to live with a better environment, with lower costs, using the existing structures that we have available here and now? So the three kids trying to find a new home in any Asian city. This one in particular is Taipei. Of course, there are very beautiful buildings like this, but one that's mostly unaffordable to any of us. Upon research, we found there are actually many of these beautiful old houses that are left over by the Japanese colonization from 1895 to 1945. There are about 1,000 of these houses exist within the Taipei context. They're not the most refined and beautiful houses that are left over by the Japanese period, but it's still beautiful since they have that history and the culture attached to it. Can we grab one of these houses and make a reuse, a relive, and a rehab? When we found it, very devastating. The walls, the floors, the windows, the toilets. But nevertheless, we took on the challenge and we wanted to grab the new idea of living in the Taipei city. As you can see, working in an old house requires a lot of smiles and optimism, because there's always new things that you learn with historical, with culture, and you need to have a three-way communication with your contractors, with yourself, and with history to have that balance. For example, when we decided to repair the windows, one of which we can go for an aluminum window, stormproof, rainproof, or we can bring back the history and find these craftsmanships to fix the window frames. We decided to go with the more difficult one, as you can see. So as they polished the wood to make into window frames, a beautiful discovery was made that these beautiful scent came from the windows. It was fresh hinokis that were left over by the Japanese. And these are so rare and so precious that you cannot even find them on the market anymore. So the house is filled with these hinoki smiles. We decided to bring one of these old woods onto the entrance beam itself. So everyone coming in, they could touch the history. They can have that scent of oil on your hand. And as they lift it up, you're giving a French scent. You're welcoming into the house. There's a very modernist approach with the entrance, with the white wall. That's because it's a Japanese old house. You need a lot of sun reflections into the deeper corners, so you get that natural sunlight. A lot of doors and openings are designed with a shoji way of idea, so everything can be opened up, can be connected inside to the outside. Fresh air. So for example, like the main bedroom itself, totally opens up in the garden, where the butterflies and the fresh rosemary wake us up in the morning. We really wanted to have this horizontal movement across the house, as well as a vertical movement into the sky. So we installed a car sunroof in our bathroom. So while we are laying in the bathtub, we can connect to the stars. The house is made by different periods. So 90 years ago, 80 years ago, 60 years ago, where we open it all up to have that connection again, the horizontal movement connection. Because we have 3 kids, so that we designed 4 different routes for them to hide and seek within the space. The whole house designed by 6 elements, of which 70% is recycled. For example, in Taiwan, we have these huge earthquakes. When the floor marble slab fell down, we try to reclaim these marble slabs. We bring back the traditional craftsmen of making the floor. So they were able to use these broken tiles into a new beautiful marble statement flooring. We really like the idea of using old and the new together, so that it creates a different story. It creates the story of the past and creates the story of the new. And that goes around everywhere in the house, even to the lights, mixing with the beams, even with the activities that the kids play with their grandparents. For the grandma's toilets, there was a fight with my wife. I really wanted to just lift up the glass windows, the roof, and to allow the rain to come down. Obviously, I lost, so we still installed a glass ceiling. We wanted a connection to link to the rooftop. So we put in the red stair in the back, so the children can climb up, they can touch a little bit of the history, and they can have their own piece of sky. So that's Living Lab. So 2019, Amsterdam. Well, we're very high with all the wines and a lot of mushrooms. We heard our name. It was really incredible because we never thought we were able to win this. We're from Taipei, no budgets, short timelines, very cheeky clients. It's not possible for any design, I think, from Taipei to win such a big award. But nevertheless, we're so proud and we're so honored to be standing here. We really wanted to showcase the idea of a new living possibility to all our friends in Taipei and Taiwan. So we opened up the house, working with different collaborative, like Open House Taipei, invited them to come in. We did charity events for the kids to sell lemonades. We invited media and TV celebrities so they can tell the story about how to reuse these old houses into new living possibilities. So what do we do? And who are we? How could this Taipei, a city of 3 million people, achieve this? So this is city of Taipei. Not sure if any of you went, but it's beautiful like this when you look afar. But only from the images, because when you go up close, this is a real Taipei. A lot of metal sheds, a lot of fast and cheap constructions. This is our newest building in Taipei, the OMA Taipei Performance Arts Center, most celebrated. Unfortunately, this is a streetscape. Huge contrast. This is a real context that designers like myself need to deal with. So while OMA can design a flying theater, we can only design a flying toilet. The culture of the fast and the culture of the cheap is evident throughout in our lives. I think Elon Musk said it best in his book, that Asia is an idea of production. It's about fast and the cheap. What does that mean? It means we have buildings like this. The developers ask for prescribed people to come in, but they only design the facades and not the building itself. It gives off only a very quick sell image so the building can sell very fast. Or this most expensive real estate in Taipei, the Palace in 2005. An Italian facade designed by Japanese. Why? Because these two combinations was, again, sell the building the fastest. Again, you have a lot of copying culture from Xiaomi into Apple, or maybe that's okay from a small scale, but what if it's like billion-dollar buildings? This is Wynn Casino. In Taichung, we have a Lin Hotel looking exactly the same. Our own project also being copied. So it's our first celebrated project, soon being copied into a steam bun shop and then to a hotel. It's evident, the fast and the cheap. But how can we embrace this culture? Is there any possibility of saving it, so there is a future for us in Asia and Taipei? Is this beautiful? I think for me, it's a little bit beautiful because it talks about society. It talks about culture. Is this beautiful? I think it is. It uses the same technology. It uses the same production method. This church, it's a printed facade done in 3 days. This entrance to my grandmother's house, it's a billboard facade done in 1 day. It's so interesting, this idea of a front entrance hiding behind an advertisement campaign. So can we tap into this idea? I think Atel Baobao said the best, made in Tokyo. It's about investigating into your own society, into your own culture, about what makes up your society. So for example, they investigate how can the roller coaster be mixed in with the office tower, right? How can the horse, where horses live, be mixed in with the apartment? So I too began to explore my own culture and see what I can do here. I come up with 3 different things I want to talk about. First is a culture of temporariness and permanence. So while we feel like everything is temporary, but actually they've been there for a very long time. Second is the idea of convenience. Okay, it means okay, I can just eat on the streets. But what else does that mean? It means legally speaking, we are all very good friends with our clients, so we don't need a very thick contractual documents to have projects started. So we can test out and experiment with many different things. Third is the culture of speed. I talk about this quite a lot. I want to talk about in another aspect. While the Taipei is very dense, but I only takes 20 minutes from my house or from my studio to go to a warehouse, to go to the production plant, to see the newest design I've been prototyping. And that culture of speed compared to the United States, for example, you probably have to drive an hour or 2 hours or take a plane to see your things tested out. I think these are the benefits of my society, and I tap into these resources. And I think that's how it got us to be successful in our own realm in Asia, in Japan Times, even on CNN. We're now a company of 30, and we are hoping that we can influence more and have more staff from around the world. So I want to show this project because it's the most difficult project to date. It's called Happier Cafe. It uses that production culture that I talk about. Happiness is difficult because happiness is a subject that is difficult to design. Everyone's happiness is different. My client gave me this book. He said, if you design the meaning of life, then you'll design happiness for me. If you design feel-good space, you design happiness space for me. I said, emotion doesn't equate to space. So I said, okay, how about you give me an idea of your happiness? So that's what they wrote. Comfortable chair, positive energy, day bed, listening to music, playing with my dog. On the second meeting, I have all these attributes down on one column. And then I combine the attributes into comfortness, knowledge, drinking, warmth, relaxation, and exploration. So these are the things that creates their happiness for them. But what's more important is here, 33 and 10. I discovered that out of these activities, 33 of them requires you to be a single activity, and only 10 to be in the group activity. That means I need to design more singular spaces to have your bubble around you. The next challenge is the cost. I only have 3,300 euros, the idea of the cheap. So that means only $8.25 a square meter, which is nothing. But remember, I still have to design these division spaces because I need to keep everyone within a happy perimeter. So I started to look into fabrics, curtains, even furnitures. And then thought maybe blinds would do it because I can pull down, I can create spaces like this. Maybe the blinds will allow me to draw on it. Can I express happiness in another way? And because the project is inside the library, so why not use recycled paper? And I call my manufacturer 20 minutes away, say, okay, can you send over a piece of roll of paper? Very cheap, for 100 US dollars, I get 300 meters of roll of paper. We then say, okay, so let's use paper and we design the different happiness spaces inside and combine them into the whole happiness cafe. Can we even use the paper on the exterior as a building facade? So let's test it out. Okay, so paper doesn't rip, doesn't slip. We did a lot of other testings. And maybe we can use the byproduct papers to make into furnitures, into lighting designs. So this is the result of the space. We use 13 rolls of paper, so only $1,300. That creates a 400 square meter space. We make into beds, we make it into furnitures. A lot of inspirational people from dancing companies that came, and graffitis were all over the place. We always thought using the paper roll is a good idea because at the end of the cafe means we can roll everything back up again, and then we can share the happiness to another city. So in 2018, we were invited to Tokyo. So we roll out all the papers and then we re-roll them out again to share our Taipei happiness with the Japanese society. So this is in front of the Olympic Stadium that interacts with the Japanese children, with the adults, so that they can create their own happiness, mixing with the Taipei happiness. And this is one picture I really love. Okay, so going back to the cheap idea again, so $100 of raw paper mixed with a B&B Italia $10,000 share. So this contrast is what I really love about our culture. I then think, my God, I love this rawness. I love this production society. Can I do more with it? So I began to explore other types of ideas and techniques. I can maybe fold a house. I can maybe cut a hair salon. I can maybe carve a new office space. I can maybe do thin cuts to create installations. I can maybe create a shortcut to create a retail store. I can pull to create a 7-story building. By the way, this is the National Taipei University, which I won in 2008. The rawness of the production of the society allow me to test different possibilities within our region. So this is our latest project, 2022. The thing is by a copper paper. We invent lights. We invent space and time by pouring acid onto it, so it expresses time over a 13-day period. We create a space with it. Can we then use the same idea to create small things like furnitures? So the next project I'd like to introduce is Bloom Chair. Bloom Chair is about recycled leather. And it's from Kobe beef, yeah? Kobe beef, the most expensive beef brand, and of course, very tasty in the world. While the beef is very known for its meat, the leather is always chucked away because it's very, very thin. So nobody wants to use it. It's not like Italian leather, 1 or 2 millimeters. It's so thin that it's not very comfortable. But it has a very high density to its fibers. Can we use that elasticity and the high density of strength to do something to reinvent the idea of a leather chair? So going back to my toolbox again, to that folding and cutting and playing with it, we folded out this chair. And going back to my childhood, the idea of this openingness is like this pineapple that we use when we are celebrating a new opening of a store. And this is beautiful because it means transportation-wise and sustainability-wise, I can flat pack everything. I don't need a big box like this. I can just wrap up everything into very, very thin packagings to save a lot of transportation costs. So eventually, I'm relooking at a surface idea to a structural idea. And because from an architectural standpoint of view, from my background, I can then use these fibers as a structure to build into these small architectures. I didn't know if it would work. It works on 3D. So we had to test it out again, driving 20 minutes to our factories, and then test it first with a paper model, and then test it with a leather model, and then finally the final result. It feels very comfortable as you lie down, so the leather are grabbing into you, it's like hugging you. All the very fine details, because it's designed in Taiwan and made in Japan, so Japan has the most beautiful craftsmanship. This is a launch event in Taipei. I'll just show the sliding bed. Yep. Okay. Leather are not very known in Japan, so Japan Times hopes that these leather chair can reinvent the new leather industry in Japan. Can this folding idea become an even bigger structure for us? So this is a very small project again, 45 square meters. It's to redesign the shop of Taipei Museum, which is one of the biggest and most important museums in Taipei. It's very, very small and it's by the corner. And right now it's very, very messy. We're very ambitious. We want us to say, even if it's a retail store, can we do something more? Can it be an art itself? The building itself is built in 1970s. So 1970s, it was a metabolism era, okay, of the living architecture, so to speak. So can the retail store also be the same idea? Can the shelf be movable? Can the shelf be alive? Can the retail store be something else? So rather than putting the shelves on two sides of the column, can we shift it like this? Can we bring it outside? Can we have different shelving systems and fingers so it moves into the lobby, so it dances, so it performs? Again, easy in concept, but is it possible? So 20 minutes again to our warehouse, we did a test. The first test is for a rotational test. Is it possible we can move this? Because the storekeeper is a very small woman. Okay, perfect. The second test is probably harder because it's a weight test. So how heavy can it sustain? Perfect. Okay, very, very little deflection. I think 0.02 deflection, 0.02%. And that's it. So we built it out. It's two shelf systems, 4.6 meters and 3.6 meters, cantilever structure into the air. Because of the movable shelving system, we increased the storage percent by 60. And guess what, guys? Guess what's in the structure? Yes, it's paper as well. So that's how we were able to maintain the lightness and the structure and integrity. So during the opening day of the press conference, I had to stand up and test in front of the press. When I stepped out, I was very nervous as well. It was a crack. I was like, oh shit. But it worked. It didn't fall down. And the director of the museum also went up and also tried it for herself. So she was very happy. The final project I'd like to present is our latest. I was showing around the WAF as well. It's a train project. Train travel is very, very memorable for us in Taiwan. Everywhere we go, we need to go on trains. So it's a very beautiful memory for us as kids, as adults. But in 2019, something terrible happened. Taiwan Railway, the main administration body, wanted to design a train themselves. So they spent 2.5 million euros to design a train like this. When it went on air, everyone was shocked. All the designer, all the social media, all the newspapers, they say it's not possible. It's 2019. How can Taiwan aesthetics be like this? How can you put a hospital in the train car? It's supposed to be a tourism train. It's supposed to show the best of Taiwan. So I know Taiwanese has this very, very criticism society that you just criticize, hope everything will be better. But coming from the West, I hope I hope I can bring a sense of optimism and hope to them. So, but I didn't know how to reach the main train administration body. So I wrote an open letter, hoping that the big boss would hear me out and say, okay, Johnny, you have some ideas. You can come and design the train for us. Anyway, we sent out this letter to everyone, really, really with an optimist heart. There are many letters that came back and say, oh, wow, yes, finally, someone who doesn't criticize, someone who wants to make an impact. Of course, 2 months went by, nothing really came about. But finally, one Facebook message came and said, Johnny, love your idea. I'll give you 2 weeks, idea out of fast, and present to me a vision of your train ideas. So we designed the train design from a journey that goes through the most beautiful parts of Taiwan, linking with the best of the locals, including chefs, while they take us to explore the beautiful oceans and bring on the fresh ingredients, while we can stop at a local community rice field and share a bowl of rice with them. So we didn't actually need to do much. We just needed to lift up the wall and the ceiling, allow the beautiful Taiwan landscape and the society to come in. We started to design from an anticipated journey. So we designed from a ticket, hoping that it's like the Willy Wonka effect. You open up, you feel, yes, I finally got the ticket, I want to go. The train is made from 70-year-old train. Okay, so that's the exterior. It has a beautiful orange, but we wanted a sense of luxuriness to it. So we combined black and orange. That makes it into a beautiful, thin, streamlined car. What this does is a beautiful highlighting thin line effect throughout Taiwan with the 13 carriages. So it highlights the most beautiful parts of Taiwan with this train. It's a symbolic gesture. The train is designed 28 seats with 4 seats and a 2-seater and 4-seater, and a 26 seats. So bar and lounges altogether. We really wanted the train-like architecture to read the sides. So can we move away from a stereotype design of split in half train? So through a lot of research, we realized that the train travels in a particular direction. One always faces the mountain, one faces the sea. So can we use that as an inspiration to our design in the interior? In a way, connecting to the outside. So we took away, we enhanced the nature. We put in a modest marble to enhance the window frames of the seaside, while the mountainside, we connected more with the nature by bringing the wood down. This is easier said than done. By shifting the ceiling system, it means a redesign of every aircon, lighting, and stereo systems. Designing a moving kitchen is quite serious because we need to bring in 54 freshwater intake systems. And we need to redesign the structure of the train so it doesn't tip over. And because the chef needs so much electricity, so it means we need to redesign. And maybe it's a good opportunity for us to redesign the lighting system inside the train itself. So we can test out all the color temperatures for the food and then test out all the warmth of the wood. So what we have is a very elegant and floating train that floats through the landscape of Taiwan, while giving chef an experimental lab for him to test all the different cuisines brought on from the local countrysides. And yes, it's very, very important to have a very beautiful bathroom inside the train. The train was designed and constructed in 2 years' time, mostly because COVID era, so a lot of engineering parts will need to be shipped from overseas, which was stopped. We had to work with the operators, with the chefs, with the kitchen, with the restaurant, and with structural engineers, with the contractors, and most importantly, with the big boss himself. So it's a very beautiful collaboration with all the big teams, almost like a building project, an architectural project. Everybody said train companies are the most difficult to challenge, especially the Taiwanese, because it's run by a government body. While safety is their most priority, but can safety include design? And that's what we hope the train can showcase, so that all government bodies in Taiwan, they can take this initial approach. They can redesign their hospital, they can redesign their government offices, they can redesign bus terminals. What we have is a beautiful new brand for the TI, for the train company. We try to keep as much cultural, historical elements as possible. For example, the old Japanese calligraphy from 70 years ago, or the old aircon systems. I think it's beautifully engineered. I always say this as a joke. While we help them to design a new train, my daughter will always still go on the Hello Kitty train. She's there. I think, again, it's a beautiful collaboration between contractors, the TRA, the big boss himself on the right, and us, so that we were able to create this train from a 70-year-old into the moving kitchen. I think Monaco, when they interview us, said it best. One design initiative can really help to change a 15,000 workforce and a 132-year-old company. And I think that's the reason why this train won the Good Design Award for the very first time for the train company. So it's a very, very proud moment for them. And also feature on CN. Taiwan is open now, so I welcome you to come and take the train. So what else can we dream? So now we're dreaming bigger. Now we're designing boats to go to different islands of Taiwan. Again, changing the idea of transportation is not just A to B, it's a destination itself. And again, it's designed in Taipei, made in Japan. We're designing cars, and maybe even more. Spaceships. So that's our idea of the space hotel design. Taiwan Design Expo in Kaohsiung, they saw our design, they said, okay, maybe you can do the first space hotel in Kaohsiung. So that's our idea. A floating balloon that you can really exercise and run around in. So if you know Elon Musk, please share with me his contacts and let him know I have a space hotel for him. If you can allow me one more last minute. I think my story from the West and then working in the East is because I've seen a lot. I know what's going on in the world. There's no good or bad, but you have to know what's going on in the world to know where you're at, to know your culture and to know your history. So in 2015, I also want the students of the world to go and explore what's out there, especially our Taiwanese students. So in 2015, we started the scholarship. Each student getting 3,100 euros to travel the world. Now we have almost 17 students. Actually, one was from the UK, Tondra, came to Taiwan. I think students is our next generation. We need to build confidence in them so they know their own culture, they know their own history, so they know how to help this world. So if you're a teacher, please take a photo of this and share with your students so that they can also apply for the scholarship and travel around the world. Okay, and that's my lecture. I hope, it's a very big honor and inspiration to be here. I always come to WAF and inspired by many of you. So thank you for the opportunity for allowing me to stand here and share with you my stories from Taiwan. Thank you.
Come and join me, Johnny.
Sure.
That was wonderful. Very inspiring.
Thanks.
Because I thought you were an eternal student. I thought you were an incorrigible eternal student. Eternal, forever.
Oh, eternal.
Because you were going to so many universities and different contexts, and I've met lots of people who just can't stop learning and being in university. But I have to compliment you and the way that you brought your experiences from around the world and the critical thinking that you gained from being in quite challenging environments, especially Colombia, I imagine, and somehow managed to work them through your fingers at a very small scale in Taipei. Although, and I think you've shown us incredible ingenuity and subtlety of approach, which has earned you notoriety and given you opportunities in Taipei. And I hope that you continue to work in the Taipei context and this sort of mulching of local culture, which seems to have fed your ideas. So, but the Japanese thing, I wanted to know how much you respected Japanese ways of assembling, working with wood, craftsmanship. How important was it? Was that a research thing in itself, or did you just do it by instinct?
So I study. In 2003, I went to Kishio Kurokawa's office. So I really wanted to learn the way they work. I'm a workaholic, so I really love the way they look into all the details. Of course, that level of detail has a lot of fights with how we think in Taiwan. They have to have everything perfected on the drawing before they can go to the construction site. But while in Taiwan, it's the other way around. The culture of convenience, it means we can go on the site, we can say, change this, do that, let's modify this. So there's a lot more freedom in that. I respect both cultures. And
so you're saying that in Japan, everything is determined beforehand in the drawing, and say with window frames, in Japan, most of them are probably metal. They probably don't bother with wooden window frames very often, but you're working in a kind of conservation situation where I imagine that the way that the wood moved and the windows, those kinds of details were, if you wanted it to work properly, you had to understand the way the thing was made.
In the first house, right?
Yes.
Yes and no. Yes and no.
So you didn't necessarily respect it you just dealt with the practicality of it.
We dealt with the practicality of it while respecting it. But not a full historical aspect. It wasn't a historical house, so we didn't need to bring everything back to its original content. So that allows us the flexibility to create something new inside of it.
Well, I think very beautiful results. Well, switching to there were many lovely things in there. The use of paper, I think, is very exciting. The idea of using a kind of otherwise unusable leather as if it was paper, that's also very exciting. And the train. The train has a beautiful sleekness. It's sort of up there with luxury travel. It's more luxurious than the Grande Compagnie de Wagon-Lits, the Orient Express. It's kind of on the Orient Express level of beauty and detail and luxury. But one thing I know that you couldn't have done in the UK is to paint the stripe of the red across the doors, because in the UK you can't do that. In the London Underground, all the doors are red, and the doors are picked out in different colour. Did you have any battles with the railway company about making such a simple livery on the trains?
Yes. For example, the trains, not the long side, the short sides. We want everything to be black. It's like a section cut. The train company said no, because at night you can't see. If there's no bright colors, it'll hit the other train. So we had to extend the orange into that center side, the section cut side. So there was a lot of compromises within our design as well.
But the stripe goes all over the doors as well.
Yeah, on the outer sides. But we at the cross section side, we wanted everything to be black, and we couldn't do that.
Okay.
So they only care about the place where they hit it.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So had there been a train accident did you show something that cited an accident on the train system that meant they'd lost confidence a bit?
Yeah, there was a sad story about the train accident recently, 2 years ago. So we're very sad about that. But it wasn't the train's problem. It was a truck that fell off the cliff and then landed on the railway, and nobody knows. So the truck driving out of a tunnel and saw it, and it was too late. Yeah.
And is there just one train, or are there different are there two trains going in opposite directions, or how does it?
Yeah, it's 13 carriages.
30
plus 3, so 16. So they can split it up into two. So one goes to the east side, one goes to the west side, and they can meet up like that.
But it's like a train set, like a children's train set, because the island, it sort of defines the island, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It corresponds exactly to the perimeter of the island.
Yes.
Well, look, Johnny, we're over time a little bit, but I just want to thank you very much for sharing your design
Thank you.
approach with us. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.